Hello there, this is Deadly Wolf, bringing you an educational video on the differences between the 4 or 5, depending on how you look at it, current tanks in WoW. And we'll start off with the DK. DK tanks are by far the best spell caster tanks. As you can see from this, I have one interrupt, one long range silence, a spell shield which I just popped there, and a grip which interrupts spell casting as well. So that's 4 different cooldowns you can blow to avoid taking spell damage. Very useful. See, I just interrupted that. DKs are also the best solo tanks, so that means these guys, if you're going to solo an elite, I'd do it as a DK if you had the choice. Just yeah, they have a lot of survivability, a lot of healing ability, the most healing ability out of it, all the tanks. So there's that. You have a lot of ranged as well. You have icy touch, death grip, death coil. Thing about DK tanking is it has a very unforgiving rotation. Like if you miss once, or if you're on a cooldown and something big happens, like the boss goes into phase 2, you can end up dying before your runes are back up. The best thing about being a druid tank is the ability to not be a druid tank. And what I mean by that is being able to switch between forms to perform better in the current situation. Also, druids are by far the best off tank in my opinion because of all their utility when they're not tanking. Whereas other tanks would just have to sit there. Druids could do a lot more damage than them in cat form. If it comes down to it, they could innervate the healer. The biggest strong point of feral tanking is also the biggest weakness. If you pop out to a different form and you get caught off guard, you can end up dead quicker than you're more helpful. Druids also are the weakest spell casting tanks. What I mean is that spellcasters, they only have one interrupt. That's it. And then casters just rip you apart like they are doing to me right now. Alright, Holy Paladins do an increased damage to undead. They do very well AoE damage, meaning that some of the other tanking classes have a very hard curb when it comes to AoE tanking, meaning if you miss a single person, like if you miss thunderclapping a single person as a warrior. They also have a lot of mitigation, like they have a lot of mitigation moves they can pop to stay alive. In my opinion, the weakest single target DPS, meaning you can accidentally drop a boss a lot easier with a paladin than anyone else. Also, the resources they use, mana. When you run out of mana, you're kind of screwed until you're it goes back up. Like if you miss a few times with Judgment, you can actually run out of mana, and you'll have to pop Divine Plea in order to get it up. I'm undergeared on this guy. So magical tanks, which may sound good, but you can be silenced. People with resistances to magical spells will have that resistance, so that's not good. Here's are the most well-rounded tanks. They have tons of spell interrupts and stuff they can do to stop casters and melee alike. And it takes a little while to get good at this, but once you're skilled as a warrior, maneuverability becomes your biggest feature. Just you can get around much quicker than other tanks, which is a huge advantage. A problem with warrior tanks is that they don't have, when they're not taking damage, they don't do very much threat, which can result in DPS pulling off of you and other bad things happening. So yeah, I can't really make a educational video on shaman tanking yet. I'm still getting geared. You can see that most of my gear is still healing, which is not a good thing to do if you're a tank. But I would like to say that even just not even being the shaman tank, I feel like shaman tank's going to be the most fun until they become a real tank, and it's definitely the hardest. So to rehash the pros and cons of each tanking class, we'll start with Death Knight again. They're the best caster tank, best solo tank, tons of ranged abilities. And the cons are there are a lot of Death Knights, so you're going to have to prove yourself to be a good Death Knight, and very skill dependent. If you miss a cooldown, you end up getting rocked. The pros of being a druid are a leather wearer, so you won't have to worry about other tanks rolling against you. Best off tank, tons of non-tanking abilities they can use to help the raid, like Innervate, Tranquility, and the highest DPS of an off tank by going into cat form. They're the weakest caster tank as a con, and if you get caught while you're not shape-shifted or in bear form, you end up getting crushed before you can switch back. Alright, pros for a paladin are extra undead damage, easiest AoE tanking, most life-saving CDs, and the cons are a mana bar as a resource. Certain fights, enemies have magic resistances. You're susceptible to silence and a very low single target threat compared to the other ones. We have warrior. Warriors are the most well-rounded, the most maneuverability, but if you're not taking damage, no revenge spamming, so that means much less threat, and you can drop aggro very quickly. And shaman, definitely the funnest. If I ever get a chance, I'll probably make another shaman tanking video, but I just need to keep getting gear still, and definitely the hardest still until they fix it. Come on, Blizz, flame shield.